So Troy Love is with us. This is another awesome opportunity for people to hear about, finding peace and attachment wounds, healing attachment wounds. Like, it's good to identify what they are, but it's even better to have a plan and, tools to use to address those. And, I'm thinking we just talked briefly, this is the day before Thanksgiving that this is being recorded. And I've the theme of some of the drop-in groups that I've attended and other things has been, oh my gosh, how do I deal with the holidays?
Mm.
And I was thinking how those wounds can get really poked pretty easily, with family situations,
Oh
shall
yeah,
we say?
yeah.
So do you have thoughts on just navigating the holiday season? It's important anytime, but I think if there's extra um, sensitivity perhaps around
Well,
holidays.
there are, and part of that when we look at it, the attachment wounds, a lot of those wounds can be poked during the holidays. We all have wounds, loss, rejection, neglect, abandonment, betrayal, abuse. We all have those wounds. And then when you get with a bunch of people who also have wounds, chances are we're going to bump up against each other's wounds. Or if you don't have a bunch of people, like if you are alone this year for some reason, those wounds can be poked just as much. So part of that is recognizing that part of the beauty of the holidays for a lot of people is the opportunity to get together and be with family and friends and to feel that love. And also part of the challenge is that also comes with things that bump up against our wounds. So being kind and compassionate to ourselves, being able to understand that these wounds might be hit and challenging the stories that we're telling ourselves, being able to find ways to get our needs met, whether that is I need to take a time out and maybe go for a walk, or I need to practice some self-compassion, or maybe I need to find somebody that I could do something kind for. Maybe I can practice gratitude, which Thanksgiving is a day that we do that. But practicing gratitude is a really beautiful tool anyway. One of the ways we can do that is thinking of something that you're grateful for and why. Why is that so important to you? And whether you write it down in a journal or just express it to your higher power or the universe, or you share that. Some families have a tradition where they tell everybody why they're
Mhm.
grateful for other people and their whatever those are, to be able to do that. But really to be kind and patient and loving to yourself and the people around you.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and and also healthy boundaries. Like there are some toxic, shall we say, people,
Mhm.
that we can bump into, and how do we take care of ourselves, within the framework, honoring ourselves before the family wedding. I probably said to myself 1,000 times, I'm going to be part of the solution, not part of the problem,
Mhm.
and like I had to hang on to that because
Mhm.
you know reacting could have been and a problem. And I'm going like, this is an event, it's a special event, and I want to be, and I navigated it. I did self-care, I went for a run. I mean, like, I did what I needed to do. I had backup plans. I could extricate myself at any given time, all of those things. But I think the planning helped it go as smoothly as it possibly could.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that helps a lot.
Okay, so we have a question, Troy. My SAPA partner often accuses me of things I didn't do or thinks I'm being malicious when I'm not, etc. I'm beginning to think he actually believes some of this stuff, and he's not the only person I've had issues with how I am perceived. How do I know when to work on myself versus when to hold on to my reality? How do I address this with him when he really believes his misperceptions? That's a great question, and it's complex too, because you know, like my wondering is when you're hearing that from other people, are they safe people or is there, some undercurrent, I'd be curious about that. So, but what are your thoughts, Troy?
So I'm hearing that he's not the only person that I've had issues with how I'm perceived. So what I'm hearing with that is there might be a pattern in maybe how things are said, that we don't necessarily know that that pattern exists until people start giving us feedback. And then a lot of times what we get frustrated with is that that was never your intention, right? So I'm really sure that you didn't wake up in the morning and think, how can I be malicious and ornery today and really piss off my partner? I'm pretty sure that's not what your thought was. So, and I'm kind of break it through, but oftentimes, and I've seen this with the betrayed partner too, they accuse the other person of doing things that the other person did not do. And so now there's a sense of powerlessness, like, how do I prove to you that I didn't do it? There's already not a lot of trust in the relationship. And it's really, really frustrating. And so, how do I prove something that I didn't do? And now I'm defensive and I'm angry and I'm feeling mistrusted and those kind of things. So that happens with both. So one of the tools is to try and, it's hard to pull this off, but to have empathy for the other person. It doesn't mean you have to just justify or defend yourself. They're saying something, hey, you did this and I didn't do it. So let's start with that first. Did I do it? No, that I didn't do it. So I already know that I didn't do it. So if I can remember that this really isn't about me and what I did or did not do, this really is about something that's being bumped in the other person. And if I make it about what I did or did not do, we're going to lose whatever this is really about. You've probably seen the video. It's pretty common. It's not about the nail. And the lady has the nail in her forehead and the man wants to tell her to take it out. And she's like, it's not about the nail. It's not about that. So part of that is saying, okay, so you're really feeling that I did this. Can you tell me more about where are you getting that perception? That seems like it's probably really scary for you. What wound is that hitting? What is the story that is coming up for you? Um, and as you're practicing empathy for that, then you can say, okay, so I didn't do that, but it seems like you need something from me. So that's part of that. The other part though is you're thinking that maybe he does believe the story, and he probably might. That's what we do. That's what gets us so uptight, is that we have these stories and we act as if they were true and we run with it and we become very accusatory. Our royal comes out and we start judging everybody else because we're holding on to a story that we're not willing to take a step back from. And to give you an example, earlier this week, we had the state come and do an inspection of our office. And my office manager was gone at a training, and she was gone for the like 2 weeks, and she's the one who really runs the office. And so we had a person who was covering who had only been working for like a week. And one of the things that the auditors wanted was to see our personnel files, and I could not find them. I was looking all over in her computer. I could not find them. I was feeling a lot of shame. The auditor's like standing looking at me. The story I'm telling myself is she thinks I'm an idiot that I don't even know. And I was getting angrier and angrier and angrier to the point that I almost sent a text to my office manager and said, don't bother coming to work anymore, which is not what I would do on but I was so mad. And I knew that I did not want to respond that way because I knew that would be really bad. So I slept on it overnight. And then she tried reaching out and I said, I need some time. Give me some time. And then we found out that she actually had hard copies. They were in a filing cabinet that I never even bothered to look at. It was sitting 3 feet away from me, and they were all there. And so I had to sit with that and think, okay, look, if she had been there, that wouldn't have been an issue and it would have there, but she wasn't, and nobody knew. So it's nobody's fault. Nobody was doing it maliciously. She did her job. And I'm like, okay. So then I had to come and kind of eat humble pie a little bit and say, hey, I was really angry, not because of you, but because of my stories and my shame. And I'm so glad that you're here. And I want you to know that I'm really grateful you're here. And we hugged it out and it was fine. So that's part of that, is recognizing when I'm telling a story, and it's, to me, it's true. Like she's irresponsible. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's not been staying up. None of that was actually true. But in that moment, that was the story. And I was running with it. And I was reacting to that story until I was able to find the truth of it. And it softened my heart, and I was able to react in a much different way. So part of that is like, okay, so you really believing that I'm doing something that I'm not doing, and that's really, really stirring stuff up. How can I help you know that I didn't do that? Because it seems like it's really causing you some pain.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable. You know, I mean, I had multiple people tell me I do this, and part of it is I'm cold, and part of it is my hands just tuck in here really well. And so,
Right?
but the body language is off-putting. And
Mhm.
somebody shared that with me, and so I am way more intentional about sharing a more relaxed version. You know, like I'm sitting here with my hands on my lap, you know, my palms are open, you know, but that was one of those things that my body language was sending out a message that was completely not what I was intending to. But, you know, but that was the perception, that was the story they were telling themselves based on what, you know, what they were seeing. I get it. You know, I 100% understood that. You know, and I chose to, because I want to be more open and vulnerable with people. I chose to work on how I present, you know, that softer version. So I always think it's, you know, it's good, and particularly if I'm hearing it from multiple people, I want to process through that. So I'm willing to go, is there a kernel of truth in something of this? Is there something that is being projected? You know, if it's like I'm not looking at someone in the eyes and they're perceiving that I'm, you know, I'm not paying attention, whatever it is, you know, is there a way that I can look at this? You know, can I learn something from it? That's all it is. You know, and the right and wrong, you know, I find to be less helpful. It's like, you know, I mean, I can, you know, I can dig my heels in and go, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. And the other person can be doing the exact same thing. And then there's no, you know, closing the gap. So I think it's always, what is the intention? And if the intention is to, you know, close the gap on the relationship and to find healing, you know, then, you know, I appreciate it, you know, the being curious, like you were talking about. I'm going to be curious about this, and I'm going to, you know, and I'm going to look at how, you know, how can I do this in a better way? So, you know, yeah, I mean, life is challenging, and, you know, and you know, and a lot of the things I go, you know, like something that somebody says, they can be completely on a different train of thought. And, you know, well, with my husband, if I ask him a question when he's watching a basketball game, that's a really bad life choice on my, you know, part. Like I just have learned that, you know, I'll wait for a commercial, or like, unless it's, if there was an emergency, I would say, time out, I really need your attention. But you know, and it's not him. It's just, I have to understand what's happening in the, you know, in the greater picture. So, other questions? We'd love to have some more questions.
Um, so I've talked about the burpees before, but that kind of leads into, the burpees are the 4 different types of behaviors that we can do with our partner that causes more conflict. So B is blame, R is rescue, P is protest, and E is escape. And the principle with the burpees is that if I'm doing one of the burpees, I'm inviting my partner to do one of the burpees right back. So if I'm blaming or accusing, like the person had asked, like, or said their partner accuses them, if I'm the one that's accusing, I am immediately inviting my partner to either protest or blame me right back and say, well, you think I do that, how about you look in the mirror, those kind of things. And so now we've getting into the cycle of drama where I am reacting and you're reacting and I'm reacting and you're reacting until we finally are really far apart. And then I might end up escaping as a way of dealing with that because I just don't want to deal with this anymore. So part of that is recognizing if I'm doing a burpee, I have the ability to stop that myself and figure out what's a different way that I can respond. If my partner's doing the burpee, it's not your time to say, oh, well, you're blaming, because I would just blame, but it's my opportunity to say, okay, how do I want to respond to that? That's not a burpee. Because if one of you can change the pattern, it's highly likely that the other person will react in a different way as well. So if one person starts blaming and I start using empathy, and I say, well, tell me more about that. That's interesting. I'm curious about that. Well, the person's like, wait, what? And then all of a sudden they start to feel heard, and then they calm down a little bit. And then I'm able to say, well, I want to be able to respond to that, but I don't want to get into more conflict. So what would be the best way to do that? So that's what comes up with that for me.
Yeah, well, and as you share, it's like if you disrupt the system, I always call it the negative two step. We can keep doing this negative dance, and it's just, we can do that, till closing time. It's like, we can keep doing that, or one of us can go, wait, I'm willing to step into this in a different place, and I personally like righteous indignation, like that would be something that I would lean into, because I know I'm right. And, I want to hold on to that. But does that serve me well? If I want to be in connection with other people, it doesn't, it keeps me distant and safe, probably within my little wall, but it doesn't connect me with people in a real and meaningful way. So, life is messy, and we do get poked, we do get hurt, and we also can heal and grow and, be on a journey with other people. So,
Well, I tell people, do you want to be right or do you want to have a relationship? And for some people, they want to be right. Okay, great. Good luck with your relationship.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you won't have real or meaningful relationships. Oh, so for those of us who can't afford a personal therapist, how can I do this work on my own?
We do have a lot of drop-in groups that are available that are run by therapists. It is not therapy, it's a support group, but those are all free. So if you go to Seeking Integrity or sexandrelationshiphealing.com, you should be able to find the links to that, so that you can at least do that. A lot of people do a lot of work by attending 12 steps and they have a sponsor, and all of that is free. Some depending on the state that you live in and your income levels, there are some people are able to qualify for assistance with that, and some if you have a job, some of the companies that you work for have EAP, so that you can have a therapist for like 6 sessions. Some agencies have a sliding scale fee, so depending on where you're at, like they may be able to, like, we have Catholic Community Services here in our area, and they have a sliding scale fee of like $30. If that's all you can afford, then that's what they take. So there are some resources. If you in your area, it may require you to do a little bit of looking, but those are some of the ways to be able to do that. So all of those are free.
Well, and Debbie McCrae has talked about, when she was, going through things, she had her, her posse or tribe of people, and when she needed accountability, this was the person she called. When she just needed the hug, it was this, so she had the different people with the different gifts. And so, if you're looking at, like, I need, and Troy mentions 12-step. Well, one of the things with 12-step is that we do a searching a fearless moral inventory. And Kristen Snowden, who will be on the webinar next week, she co-authored Life Anonymous. And that's a 12-step program for everyone. And that is an opportunity to go through that. And it would be looking at those pieces of what is serving me well and what is not serving me well. And again, the book is, I don't know, $20. But that would be an opportunity, and find some people who want to be on that journey and do that peer accountability. 12-step is peer support, peer accountability, getting a sponsor. That's a person that I'm saying I'm going to be accountable to this person. They're going to guide me through it, but there's lots. Journaling, Harriet Hunter did a webinar on our platform. This was a while ago, but her Miracles of Recovery daily reflection, which is one I use personally, came out of her journaling. And there, she wrote about, the things that didn't serve her well and being caught up in the pain, and then making choices to do things differently. So there's so many resources. So I would encourage you not to get hung up on, I can't afford a personal therapist, so I'm stuck. You're here. That's fantastic. And there are lots of resources that you can utilize. And again, I do my meditations. I'm looking every day to how can I do today with the most integrity. Part of the 12-step program, the 10th step is we do, a daily inventory. We're checking in with ourselves of, did I do, where did I do well? And where are some opportunities for growth? And it's not that I did it bad or wrong. I have opportunities for growth. And that helps me stay out of the shame of like, I completely messed it all up. That's just for me. But I completely messed it all up it doesn't help me because then I'm in a shame spiral and it doesn't work. So, okay, the next question, Troy. So what would the correct way to discuss handle someone blaming or accusing you when you feel so defensive and upset that they're accusing you of something you don't feel like doing? And that's a great, like, how do I take that pause and get it back into my brain? So
if you wouldn't mind, the person who asked that, if you could give me an example of something that you've been blamed for, and then I'll come back and answer that, because I think she will. So I'll do that. So while I'm waiting for her to give me an example, can we go to the next one and then I'll come back?
We can. And she tagged on that Life Anonymous, and it's on our book list on our website. But that is free if you have a Kindle. So there you go. If you have Kindle Unlimited. So great to know. And again, Kristen will be on next week. So you can also, she's free next week on that. So, okay, the next question, and we'll wait for the response. I just asked my husband to move out because he went back to acting out after 5 months of sobriety, far from recovery. I feel so much shame. I come from a very messed up background. People would always say, wow, you're so lucky. So is the best person. Oh, about her partner. So I feel shame for asking him to leave. Like I'm to break my I'm to break my SA heart. Okay. Also, I feel a lot of loss. I don't have any family that can be of support for me. All my friends and family, friends, and my husband's family are. So I feel alone and heartbroken and sad. What can I do? So,
thank you, number one, for reaching out and being here. So shame is the deep and abiding belief that I'm flawed and defective, and therefore I am unworthy of love and belonging. And it's interesting how we can feel shamed for something that we didn't do. You made a choice to ask him to move out for your safety. You made a choice for that because you need that for your boundaries. And yet there's all this shame saying you're doing the right thing, or you're doing the wrong thing. How could you do that? What are other people going to think? All those things. Those are normal shame reactions. So I love that you are reaching out. And I would imagine that there are lots of stuff about your partner that you love, just like everybody else, and there's some stuff that you cannot tolerate. So first is recognizing that it all stems from this core belief that I am not going to be worthy of love and belonging. What I'm hearing is that you have a lot of friends and family that maybe are taking his side, or you don't feel safe with them. And so you're feeling really, really lonely. And you're asking, like, what can I do with that? Well, I'm assuming you're a woman because you said husband, but that's not always the case. So, but I'm assuming that that might be the case. So there's a website called We Tonglin that is only for betrayed partner women. If you're a man, you're not allowed to join. Um, but there's a lot of support there. We have a lot of betrayed partner groups that happen that are all free that you can use to connect with some of the other women here. I know that, like, if you're in the United States, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and that's probably going to be a tough day for you if your husband is out, and all of the um, all of the family stuff that normally happens on Thanksgiving is going to be a little bit awkward. And so being able to figure out, well, are there people that I have in my life that do support me, that I could reach out to and talk to, that aren't going to be judgmental and just like husband bash, but really just be able to provide support. And hopefully you have a couple of those people. Um, Also to be able to recognize that this hurts, that is one of the parts of self-compassion that we sometimes forget to do, is to validate that it hurts. When a little boy or a little girl scrapes their knee and they come in, and we say, oh, that looks like it hurts, let me kiss it better. But we validate that it hurts, and we want to put a band-aid on it and kiss it better first. We don't just say, it's nothing. Well, some people do. Oh, it's nothing. I don't know why you're crying, all that stuff. That's not compassionate. So we offer compassion to ourselves and say, hey, this really does hurt. I'm really hoping that my husband will use this experience to grow and maybe learn and get some help so we don't have to live like this forever. But it hurts, and my heart is broken. And who can listen to me, and hold space for me?
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, your husband was really good at having the facade, and you knew what was going on underneath, or you have learned because you found out, you had discovery. He's known all along, but addiction is very much, I have this facade, and I can look really good to the rest of the world, and I can, but I'm lying to myself, I'm lying to everyone else. And I'm going to shift this, because I really look at this and go, wow, you are brave, because you are going, my boundaries matter, I need to take care of me, and you are holding that safe space for you, honoring your boundaries. So rather than feeling shame, which is a useless emotion, it doesn't help any of us, I would encourage you to lean into, I'm taking care of me. I'm the only one that can take care of me. But you're not alone. Troy mentioned we have a betrayed partner drop-in group today at 12:30 Pacific time. I think there's one running tomorrow. Don't hold me to that. I will try to go look on the calendar, but I think that there is one. But there are resources. I'm confident We Tonglin will be, have people chatting on that, as well tomorrow. It's a holiday, and tensions can be, but I also find for myself, good self-care. What can you do tomorrow, with the holiday? How can you be of service to yourself and to others? There's lots of people who are, not with family, or with family that will understand or whatever. So one of my family members in a different state is alone, and she invited every person that was single that didn't have other family to go to. She's cooking a Thanksgiving dinner for all of them, but they couldn't bring family members. It wasn't like they can all, so it was very intentional, about, I'm going to do this, and she is a great cook and a great baker, and they will be blessed, with that meal, but she won't be alone, and neither will they. So I would look for opportunities of, what can I do, that will help me feel better and take care of me. But I really want to honor that you were like, no, this is not okay, and I need the separation because he is not safe. And I do hope that he gets it. I hope he chooses, to lean into healing and recovery. So, okay. So Troy, here's an example of, so blamed me for not helping enough around the house, for example, while I'm watching our 2-year-old daughter 24/7, and do as many chores as I have time for. Also, depression, ADHD, and PTSD cause me some issues, feeling overwhelmed and getting things done. But I feel like I'm not being seen for the things I do accomplish.
Beautiful. Thank you. I knew you would give me some answer. Okay. So your husband comes in and says, what in the heck has been done around here? Nothing's been done. You've been sitting on your butt all day. And of course, he's just done a burpee. And so now you want to say, what do you mean? And we get right into the burpee. So you might want to write this down. This is important. It's a phrase that you might want to write. It's really important. It's really hard. It's 2 words. That's interesting. That's interesting. And then you're going to follow up with a question. Why would you say that? Or that's interesting. Tell me more. Or that's interesting. What are you seeing? So that's interesting, right? So that's the first part. So we do that to give myself a little bit of a breather. Okay, it's because I want to jump in right now and like say, what do you mean? I have a 2-year-old who has had 5 poopy diapers today and has vomited everywhere. You haven't seen that, right? I remember a friend of mine told me this joke once. The husband comes home and he walks into the house, or he walks into the yard, and like there are toys everywhere. Like the tree has been hacked to pieces, and like there's bushes, like all stuff, and he gets inside and there's laundry everywhere, and all the like looks like the house is blown up. He walks through the kitchen, dishes everywhere, all the stuff, and the kids are running around, and he gets upstairs and he sees his wife, and she's just on her bed reading a book. And he's like, what is going on today? Why is and she said, well, today I decided to take a break. I decided to take a break and just read a book today. And so he's like, oh, this is what it looks like every day. Like every day he would come home and everything's nice and stuff. And today she's like taking a break. So he doesn't know, right? So I like that story. But so you say, that's interesting. Tell me more. Oh, what are you noticing? And then he'll say things like, well, the dishes aren't done. And say, okay, so you're really concerned that the dishes aren't done. Would it be helpful if I told you that I have done 5 sets of dishes today and I've now been working on this? Would that be helpful for you? So that's how you respond. It's out of curiosity and saying, oh, tell me more. Like, what are you seeing? And then I can honor, yeah, I didn't get to that today. Or I actually did do that today. It just walked in when we had an accident, and I mopped the floor earlier today and she just spilled milk everywhere, right? So whatever that is. But that's interesting. Tell me more. That's interesting. Why would you say that? That's interesting. I'm confused. So that's how you do it. And then you can say, well, can I share with you a little bit about what I need from you right now? I don't think that you have been able to see what my day has been like. And you've probably had a hard day too. But today's been really hard. Would you be willing to help me with the dishes? I hear that you have ADHD, which that's overwhelming in and of itself. Like you can't even know where to begin a project, and your brain shuts down. So it's like I had one of those ADHD days today, and I could use some help. Here's what I could use some help with. Would you be willing to help me with that? So hopefully that helps.
So let's play this out. And if he says, no, that's your job and whatever, like, I mean, how do you keep going with it, and
That's
not just,
interesting. Tell me,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
interesting. Tell me my job. That's my job.
Mhm.
help me understand where you came up with that. Will you stay home with the kids? You stay home with a 2-year-old all day? I do. Yeah. Help me understand where you're coming up with that. That's my job. We are a team in here. And right now I could use some help.
Yes, and I agree. And for me too, I'm sorry, I'm plugging my computer back in, but I also think it's like, oh, can we look at this from a problem solving, like like this is important to you, and I didn't get the dishes done, should we be looking to hire some outside help? I mean, so can we come up with some creative solutions together, so that it isn't blaming or shaming or whatever. Like, okay, we're overloaded. We've got, a young child. We're busy people. So how can we navigate this? And how, at some point, how important is whatever it is that's being brought? I mean, is, having every dish clean and sparkly and put away, is that the most important thing? Or, is having the 2-year-old well taken care of and loved? You know, so sometimes perspective on that, as well. So, but yeah, it's tough, and it's called, challenging life. Okay, so the next one, trying to find out the best way to handle an active situation going on in my home right now. My essay husband has been avoiding all communication with me since our couple session last Friday, in which we reached to the point at which I said I wanted to move to therapeutic separation due to his resistance, refusal to do recovery work, and inability to do to this to have any safety with him. Therapist was in agreement and told us to take a few days to think this over and then talk. We are now 6 days from that, and he refuses to communicate, hasn't been working his job, and sits at home playing Xbox or phone games. Extremely minimal participation in household duty, care of kids, etc. I've made a couple of attempts to calmly ask to have a discussion about where we are with things, and he won't. Looking for suggestions on how to get him to communicate. I will wait until after Thanksgiving tomorrow for my kids, but I may ask him to leave without waiting to go through planning of a therapeutic separation.
Mm. Yeah, that's really tough. Like, so I don't know how you can get him to communicate. I'm obviously only seeing your side of the story, but I'm seeing that he's shutting down, and I'm seeing that he's going into teenage mode. He's being a grumpy teenager, and he's mad that he's not getting his way. So, and unfortunately, that's part of the reason why you probably are wanting to have a therapeutic separation. So when I'm working with the guys and they do things like this, I'm like, and you think that's going to help? You think that's going to make your partner feel loved and supported? I don't think that's going to work. So what I'm hearing is that he's feeling very overwhelmed emotionally. He probably doesn't have a whole lot of emotional intelligence. That's something he's going to need to work on, and you are feeling very alone. You're feeling very alone in this situation, and you were wanting to collaborate, and it seems like you probably wanted to work on um, this relationship through therapeutic separation so that we just don't end it. Like, you're wanting to say, hey, I see value in this relationship, and his response to that is showing you that right now he's not taking any accountability. So my heart breaks for you. There aren't any magic answers to make him see that. um it if he were talking to some other guys in a group, they may call him out on that. They may say, hey dude, like, that's what do you want? Do you want to be a teenager and play video games all day, or do you want to actually save your marriage? Because you might not get this chance again. So I think it's sad. My heart aches with you. I think that you making the decision that you need to make for you and your family is what you are going to have to do. And that might be what it takes for him to say, wait, what are you talking about? Sometimes, and maybe it won't. But my heart hurts for you, and I wish I had better ideas for you. But part of that is just saying this isn't helping. You escaping and running is not helping us figure this out.
Yeah, the gaming to me is absolutely the same numbing out and escaping that the other acting out is. So he's still in active addiction. He just may be using something else, but he's not, and you're clear. You need him to do recovery work. You need him to be, a person who's on a recovery journey. And I'm sad for you. I'm sad for your kiddos, like that's, and I'm, and for him, I mean, he's choosing, he will lose all of you and have an Xbox. Like the insanity of that is clear to me, but he's not there yet. And that's, so hopefully he gets it at some point. But I think for you, being you've got another day, get through tomorrow. Hold your healthy boundaries around that. Do what you need to do. But I hear you being really clear on doing what you need to do overall as well. So, okay, my resentment towards my husband, I am female, has kept me safe has kept me safe and protective. But I do want to try to reconcile. In the past, I forgave too easily and did not do it in a boundaried way. It feels unsafe for him to meet my needs because in the past he would fawn and say yes, but then he would be deceptive and betray me without my knowledge. How do I release my resentment in healthy ways in order to move towards reconciliation?
So releasing your resentment and reconciliation don't necessarily go hand in hand. You can release your resentment without having to reconcile. Obviously, it's going to be almost impossible to reconcile if you have resentment that's in the way. So you can have one and not the other, but you can't have the other with the other, if that makes sense. So resentment is a form of blame, and blaming really is my way of trying to get rid of the pain and the discomfort that I am feeling. So whether that pain is coming from rejection or betrayal or abandonment or neglect, I'm holding you accountable for, or I'm blaming you for all of my wounds. I'm blaming you for my abandonment. I'm blaming you for my rejection. I'm blaming you for my neglect. And although he or other people may have played a part in some of that, they don't play a part in all of it. But I want to like make you wholly responsible for me, even if they did something that was really bad. So that resentment and that blaming, it doesn't really get rid of the pain and discomfort. It's like, I want to give it to you and I want you to fix it and I want you to change and then I'll be better. But no, that's not how that works. So being able to understand what forgiveness really means is not pardoning somebody's behavior. And a lot of times people think that forgiveness is pardoning. Somebody's on death row and the governor calls and pardons them, and now they don't have to serve their sentence anymore. That's what pardoning is. It does not mean that they weren't guilty. It just means that they don't have to serve their sentence anymore. And people think that that's what forgiveness means, is that I'm forgiving you and now you don't have to serve your sentence. That's not the same. Forgiveness is I'm giving away all of the blame and all of the resentment and all the anger and all the animosity that I have. I'm giving that away to the universe, to wherever you want to give it. And I am going to see you as a human who is worthy of love and belonging, even if you've made mistakes. I'm going to see that you are imperfect like I'm imperfect, that you make mistakes like I make mistakes. And I'm no longer going to hold you responsible for my needs to be met. That's really hard to pull off, but it is possible. It also does not mean that you then drop all your boundaries. So if the person has done some things, like let's say they were sexually abused you, right? You can still work through that resentment and give that away and see them as a human and have love and compassion for them and never let them be in the presence of your children all by themselves, right? So you can have boundaries without resentment. You can have boundaries and say, I love you, and here's what I need in order to feel safe. And if you can't honor that, I love you, and you are not going to be able to be a part of my life. There's a difference with that than just forgiveness. Because I mean, um, not forgiveness, pardoning. Pardoning is like, oh, whatever, and come on in, you're fine, and that's different, right? So part of that forgiveness is being able to first be kind to yourself. What are the stories that I've been telling myself about me? What are the stories that I've been telling myself about that other person? And are they absolutely true? Are they completely true? Or is some of that just like really dark stories that I've told myself? And what is the truth? What really is the truth about that person and about me? So when you do that then with your husband, you can say, look, your behaviors have your behaviors have cut me really deeply. And I I'm giving away the responsibility for you to have to ever fix that or to ever be responsible for my feelings. I know that you were hurting too, and I care about you. Here are my boundaries around that, and I care about you, and I hope that you do well. When you get rid of that, then you can say, and do I feel safe enough to actually let him come closer to me? It's ironic that the person who's caused the harm actually is in the best place to repair. So even though I'm no longer holding you accountable for my heart, the person who's done it still can say, I own that I've done that, and I want to repair. I want to make restitution for how I've hurt you. And so what can I do to make things better? And if I don't have all that resentment and my hand is like, don't come any closer, then I can let him know, no, that one doesn't work for me. Yep, this one works for me. I'm being able to have some dialogue around that. So that was a long answer. But honestly, the part of that is being able to tell the rest of the story, to tell the part where he's not the monster, to tell the part where he also has light in him. So does that help?
It does. And, I was thinking, yeah, I can keep myself really safe and I'm really disconnected. And, but I think you already have awareness. He starts spawning, he starts doing these things. I don't think it would be as easy for you to be deceived by his behaviors. I think you have it sounds like you have gained some skills, and I don't think it's all or nothing, okay, I'm going to completely let my shields down. When guys come to our residential program, we talk, with partners, but it's, there, you can see that he's working on being trustworthy, but that doesn't mean you trust 100%, so you're hanging on to, your spidey sense, so that you're kind of, I'm paying attention, I'm seeing if his actions align with his words, because the words are useless unless they're backed up by action. So but if we are that protected, we are disconnected, and we miss out. I mean, addicts do this all the time. It's like we numb out, but guess what? We numb out the bad feelings, but we numb out the good feelings too. So that is, and it keeps us safe. We keep it, like the previous one with the Xbox. I'm Xboxing, and so I don't even know how to Xbox. So I'm doing this. I'm typing. But I'm Xboxing, and so I'm completely engaged with this, and I'm getting dopamine, and I'm numb out. I'm disconnected. I'm not paying attention to my spouse. I'm not paying attention to my kids, and so you can disconnect. And life is messy, and even I love my husband dearly, and I will do things inadvertently. It's not malicious, but I will do or say something, and I will need to make amends for it. But I'm willing to make those amends and step back into that space, and likewise, so it's one of those things where I'm willing to take the risk. He's very safe, so, and I work on being very safe as well. So, you won't do it perfectly. He won't do it perfectly. But if you're willing to engage in that and own, and especially him, if he owns, when he's doing behaviors that are hurtful, you guys can make, huge progress. Okay, the next one. I did try 5 day challenge a couple of times and I want to read the workbook finding piece. What can I expect from this? I am also, just so you know, putting in the chat, Troy does an online work group with Seeking Integrity that goes through the class. So that's different, but please talk about your work.
So the Finding Peace workbook is a fusion of a fictional story and then some homework for you. So it tells the story of 8 people who come to a group together. Each one of them have their own set of attachment wounds. And so chapter 1, they learn about the attachment wounds, and then it walks them through the core beliefs, walks them through introducing the shadows of shame, it walks them through finding ways to help be kind and compassionate to those wounds and being able to say goodbye to some things. So it's a narrative version of the 5 day challenge, which is a really condensed part of that. So you'll see some similarities between the 5 day challenge and the workbook, but it's a story. So a lot of people who've read the book feel like they are part of the group. A lot of people find other people to do the book with them. So they start a little book club. And so they're not doing it all by themselves. I would recommend that, even if you just had one other friend who was willing to read that with you and the two of you talked, because it is designed to help have some connection with other people. So that I hope you read it.
And I'm going to tag in, and that work group is Troy walking you through that. And guess what? I did his retreat, an in-person retreat, another great opportunity, but I don't think any of us were like, oh, we're only one type. Guess what? There was a combination of those things.
Right.
So it's not just like, oh, I'm this. No, like, and of course life is messy. So it's messy, but then there's healing. So, but his online work group, please consider that. I think you would really benefit from that. Okay, so then the next one, this is tags back. That's my perspective that I should be caring for our daughter first. This is the 2-year-old over everything else. His opinion is opposite. He thinks chores should come first. He gets angry and stressed when he comes home to a disorganized house. He feels like I'm not respecting him when I don't care about how the mess will stress him out. So this is like we're on opposite sides of.
Yeah, well, he could stay home and you
I
could
know, I was thinking that. I was like, and what is his contribution to the household chores? Thank God my husband vacuums, like I don't like vacuuming, and thank God he vacuums, like it's our household. It's not mine. I'm a busy person and I need help with the household chores. Thank God he cooks. I don't cook either. I bake. So like we really do divvy things up. I clean toilets. He doesn't, so.
Right. So his story, and that's the story, is that you don't care. And I know that that's not true. You do care. And I know that it stresses you out that the house isn't as clean as he would like. And then you're worried about if he's going to be upset or not. And so part of that is like, okay, we got some stories that are going on, and then we have reality. So I got depression, I got PTSD, I got ADHD, you probably have anxiety. We got a 2-year-old, you're busy all day. So what can we do? How can we solve this together instead of making ourselves the enemies? Because that's not going to work.
Okay, the next question. SAPA uses me holding my boundaries as confirmation that he will never be able to do recovery right. He's been in 12-step drop-in groups webinars for a year now. It's as though he's unable to take in the idea of boundaries as a safety measure for me. What is missing? Is it denial, lack of accountability from others? I'm going to dig out a webinar that Gavin Sharp did about boundaries are for everyone, including addicts. So I'm going to dig that out while you answer this. I will find it.
Yeah. So, okay, so he has this do recovery right. So there's a thought that he's not doing it right. I don't know what your boundaries are, but he's using that. A lot of guys do have a hard time with their spouse's boundaries. It feels like punishments to them. That's because they don't understand boundaries. So I don't know if it's denial. And I don't know if it's a lack of accountability. What I'm getting is that he is not understanding the concept of boundaries. So he might not fully understand what that is. And then what happens is that if he crosses a boundary, if he has an issue, his shadows show up and tell him that he's never going to get this right, and why is he even trying, what's the point of all that. And so he goes into shame, which is totally not what you're wanting or hoping he'll do. You're wanting to have a dialogue and say, well, here's why this is important to me, and can you honor that, and can you respect that. But his shame hijacks it. So it's really, I think it's shame that's causing him to challenge that. And honestly, shame unravels connection faster than anything else. And shame is one of the biggest things that we have to deal with in recovery, whether you're the betrayed partner or the person struggling with the addictive behaviors, because shame will make us do things that go contrary to our value system in order to try and feel better about ourselves. And then because we went against our value system, we feel worse, and it becomes this big old black hole that makes it almost impossible for me to have compassion and empathy for you.
And um like I through Gavin Sharp did a great webinar. It's in the chat, so I would invite you to check that one out. That would be, it talks about everybody's boundaries. But I'm reading this and I'm like, he's in 12-step group. He's in 12-step group. If he's just warming a seat, he's not doing the work. Steps 4 through 9 are where we make the progress. So if he's actually doing the work in 12-step, and he's done his 4th and 5th step, he's working on 6, 7, 8, 9, he would be making progress. And if he's paying attention in the 12-step meetings, it's progress rather than perfection. None of us are ever going to do this thing called life 100% perfection, but we make progress, and we can see that, oh, I'm further than I was. I'm working, I use the 2-year marker for myself personally on my journey. And because I can get frustrated that I should be past this. And then I go, no, wait, I'm in a better place. I like myself more. I have more integrity now than I did 2 years ago. And I'm confident in 2 years, I'll be able to say the same thing. So it's always it's a journey. And, if you throw in the towel and go, I'm never going to be able to do it right, then you don't get the benefits of being on the journey as well. So to me, it feels like I hear that he's doing those things, but I'm curious about how much he really is doing, because if he's going to 1 12-step meeting a week, he's probably not got a sponsor. Like, I appreciate that he's doing the drop-in groups and things like that, but this is I will get out of it what I put into it. The more I put into this, especially early on, and a year is good, but it's still, it's still early in the process, especially when you look at these issues are probably from before age 10. So if you look at decades of challenges, and now I'm on a different path, it's not automatic. So don't be discouraged. You hang on to your healthy boundaries for you, and and he can ask you questions about, tell me more about, why is that one important? If there's really something to negotiate, if there really is, and sometimes, there could be, then that's a conversation. So, okay, last question. My sex addict husband of 14 years, 3 young kids, has been diagnosed with ADHD, depression, and borderline personality disorder. D-Day was 12 years ago, and I kept giving him chances, but he just does not seem to be able to do recovery. He has a few months of sobriety, and then he relapses. I'm so exhausted of this, and I don't feel like I can be in this marriage anymore. I really wanted to keep our family together for the kids, but it's just too much for me. Is it possible for someone like this to be in a recovery life? Yes, if they do the work, like I just said, Troy. And I'm going to find something for you with the kids too. So go ahead.
It is. The 3 diagnoses that you gave me, ADHD, depression, and borderline, those are really tough. Independently, they're tough. But they're all, when you put them all together, that's really, really tough. Hopefully he has a therapist who is trained in dialectical behavioral therapy. It's called DBT. It is the preferred treatment model for people with borderline personality disorder. And if they actually do the work and they have somebody who's really been trained in it, they don't just like do the workbook, but they have somebody who's really been trained in it, they can actually get a lot better. In fact, so good that the last time we updated the DSM, they debated whether borderline personality
Mm.
disorder is actually a personality disorder because DBT was so effective that people
Oh,
didn't
wow.
manifest those symptoms anymore, which in the school of thought was personality disorders couldn't be treated. They're just part of a person, but
Yeah.
we found out that that's not the case. So
Interesting.
but there's not a lot. You have to do some homework to find somebody who does that. But what DBT does, there's a couple of things that it does. One, it teaches skills, and oftentimes when we're dealing with kind of these issues, we need some skills. My belief is people with borderline personality disorder have had a lot of trauma, and the around like attachment wounds kind of stuff, and the way that they've been behaving is as a way of trying to prevent you from leaving. So like they have this panic that you're going to leave, right? So the person has probably found like sex as a way of soothing that fear of abandonment and that fear of neglect, although it's not really helpful. So they give them skills to learn how to communicate better and to be able to ask for what they need. And then the other part is that they learn mindfulness. So they learn how to actually like understand what's going on in their body and how to find healthier ways to get their needs met. So if we addressed the borderline personality disorder stuff and he was able to become a whole lot more stable, I would imagine that his sex addiction behaviors would go down. His depression would probably get better. It may or may not affect his ADHD, but he would be in a more grounded place where he can actually think through what's going on with him. So it is possible, but it's going to require a lot of work on his part. And I can understand as a partner, as a wife, and 3 kids that are young, this is hard. So hopefully you have some support for you too. And you're able to know that you're not alone in this, and that there are women out there who can understand what's going on, and it doesn't feel so alone. So
So, 2 things on that. I put a link in about Dr. Todd Love, not Troy Love. I confuse the two every now and then. But he talks a lot about ADHD. He's an expert in that and addiction, and the co-occurring. So I put a link for the Super Saturday Recovery Summit. The podcast, I noted, listen to the one for this specific that has kiddos. Listen to the one about Dr. Ken Adams. It was one that was recorded this last year, but it's in the lineup. But it's his book, Into the Light, I think it's called. It's on our list of books on our website. But it was for adult children of sex addicts, and it's helpful just hearing that because it's perspective, when you've got younger kids as well. So any of the podcasts. I mean, I love the one on epigenetics, but like Troy has one on there. I mean, there's a lot of great content. There's Mother and Mesh Men. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. But I want to go back to the person. Whatever he's doing or not doing, it really is healthy boundaries for you, and hanging on, hoping that he will change. Like exhausted, I can imagine. So I would encourage you, healthy boundaries for your safety, physical, financial, emotional, spiritual. What do you need to do to take care of you? And if he's able to step in to the space and go, yeah, we had a client, and I know we're out of time, but we had a client that was at our treatment program, and he was like, "Oh, I have ADHD. We have lots of that." But and I was like, "That isn't a pass. You just have to work harder. You have to come up with the tools that will support your recovery. Put it in your calendar on your phone that I'm going to do my 12-step group. Put it in your calendar on your phone with a reminder that I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to work on my 4-step, whatever it is, so that you get the support you need." So. Oh, yes, his CSAT sent him to a DBT. He said that he will not go and stop doing the CSAT. Well, there's your answer. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but and I'm going to use it really pisses me off when it's, I won't go, you've got 3 kids and your relationship, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take care of me so that I can show up, for myself and everyone else. So I'm really sorry, but boy, he's being pretty clear on, I want to live in my addiction and my, mental health situations. I don't want to, be a man of integrity and a person in recovery. So sad. I don't want to end on a sad note. So, okay. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for the great questions. Lots of resources. You can always email me, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. I'll try to, point you towards resources. Take care of yourself, with the holiday. That's what you can do. We only have control over us, right? Our actions and reactions. So thank you, Troy.
Have a good night. Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving. Bye.